What's up, guys? It's the real main event, the Rogue Soldier, the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I'm Mrs. Crossfire.
And once again, you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation. Shakalaka-laka.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 72 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the essential John L. Crossfire. Unfortunately, off the back of last week's episode where myself and Mrs. Crossfire were talking about how we were heading to Sydney and I was having an eye appointment and yada yada yada. Unfortunately, just because, life is what it is, I have had to postpone that until January. So no 6-month post-op for me, but that will make it 8 months, which means that at my next appointment, I'm not going to get my hopes up too much about the stitches coming out, but because it is the 8-month mark, they will have a clearer idea of when the stitches come out. So stay tuned for that. As I said, January, it is what it is. Life sucks and then you die. There's some philosophy for you today. This week, I have a great conversation. I was very much enjoyed this conversation. We talked for about 2 hours all up. We talked for almost, I think, maybe 15, 20 minutes before we started recording. We had a bit of a blooper reel. I was almost going to leave it in, but I cleaned it out. I took it out. Steve the ref, wrestle ref Steve, his dog decided to try and attack a lizard, which was kind of funny. Threw us off straight from the get-go. Fuck it, I'm not even going to take that out. Let's go. And we nerded out, we talked some shit. But yeah, we had about an hour and a half's worth of a conversation here. It was a very fun conversation. A few times during the conversation where Steve flipped the questions on me and I went on my usual rant and reviewing and marking out, as I always do on the podcast. That's why it's the motto for the pod. But it was just a great, fun conversation. It was really great talking to Steve. And as we discuss in this conversation, I've literally only met him in person once, but he's a good dude. So, and I'll say it again in the intro, and you'll hear it, or in the outro rather, and you'll hear it in the conversation as well. But, make sure you check those links in the description. Like, I'm not just trying to hawk my merch here, but he needs your support. Go follow him on social media. Help build his name up. Wrestling promoters, book him. He is a damn good referee. I'll give him the Crossfire stamp of approval for whatever the fuck that may or may not be worth to you guys. The song of the week this week is going to be Anyone But Me by Citizen Soldier. As always, fight the good fight. It's okay to not be okay. Maybe a possible trigger warning. There's no, self-harm and stuff in there, but some of the lyrics, it's the dude singing from his heart. He's writing down what's in his head, and he's putting it out there, trying to help other people as much as himself. But yeah, go check it out. Anyone But Me by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week this week is going to be The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19. In my opinion, the best of the 3 WrestleMania matches that they had. And you'll hear us get into that in this discussion with Steve and why I've picked it this week. By the time this episode drops, Pro Wrestling Tees will be in the middle of a week-long sale. A week-long Black Friday sale. So hit the links in the description. Get yourself some John Crossfire merch. Please, thank you. I am also selling some wrestling memorabilia for those of you that follow me on Instagram. Need the cash, I got medical bills. I'm not trying to sit here and ask for a handout and play the poor me, but if you know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy, let me know. Hit me up. Also buy some merch. But now, let's not wait any longer. This episode already goes for about an hour and a half plus. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with Ref Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Wrestle Ref Steve. He has ref for NCPW, AWS, and Kingdom Wrestling Entertainment. Hoping to get out there more in the new year, and I don't doubt that you will. You're doing a pretty damn good job from what I saw. I've only met you in person one time, and I was... no disrespect to the person that refereed my match that night, but I was a little disappointed that you weren't the referee for that match, but it is what it is.
I believe that was the NCPW senior ref at the time. That was Jay.
Yeah, I had Doc. Doc's a great ref. I love him. He's a good dude.
100%.
But I was just watching what you were doing, and I was just like, this is good. Like, you know.
Back then, I was still very fresh.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, though. Like, and I could tell that you were, I hate using the term green because, like, especially in Australian wrestling, unless you're in like a PWA or an MCW where you're wrestling constantly training, 5 days a week or whatever. Pretty much all of Australian wrestling outside of that is green. But it is what it is.
I work with one of the refs from PWA, which is Ben. He's insane. I ref with him at AWS, Kingdom, and
is he the young one that they've just recently had come out me more often?
He might be, but recently he ref the New Japan Australia tour.
Okay, because I was watching a PWA show recently. I think it was the last one they did, but they had the cage match with Mick Moretti and Ricky South. And I know referee Nick, I know referee Hannah, but there was a guy, and I could not for the life of me remember his name, but I think that's who it was. I think it was young Ben.
Yeah.
I say young Ben. I think he's younger than me, but anyway.
Like what do you even call it? The hair that goes to the side?
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah, I think that's who it was by memory, but I'm ADHD as fuck, so it could have been something well before that, but... But we'll start the journey at the beginning, man. Like, what got you into wrestling? What was your very first wrestling memory? Because for me, it was more action figures and video games rather than the actual product. What was your first exposure to professional wrestling?
You make me feel old. Back when I was a kid living in South Australia, I was watching WCW at midnight at my friend's house back during the Goldberg streak.
Nice.
And still remember him losing the streak by a taser.
That's still... The funny thing is, every time you, like... We all know, like, if you look at it, yeah, Kevin Nash won the match. But when that first pops up, the first thing you think of, it's always Scott Hall with the taser. Scott Hall... Yeah. Brilliant mind for a match that he wasn't even in. That one spot that he did is remembered more than anything else.
It's a shame we lost him this year, though.
Yeah, dude, I was sitting there watching the updates when he first went into ICU, and I literally went to my break at work, and I saw, I think it was X-Pac or Kevin. I think it was X-Pac. I can't remember. I think it was X-Pac anyway. But one of the two was either X-Pac or Kevin. They tweeted out that, once they get everything in order, in the next, 4 to 5 hours, whatever it was, we're going to be turning the live sport off. And I was just like, no.
I believe that was Nash. And then best friend and all that.
Yeah, that's right. It was Nash that sent that out. And then I saw X-Pac's tweet the next morning saying that he was gone. And I was like, I knew it was coming, but I still wasn't ready. And it sounds so weird, when it's someone that you've never met, but it fucking hit me. And even my wife, like, she was a fan casually from the Attitude Era more into the Ruthless Aggression era. So she hadn't really seen much of Scott Hall. She only knew Razor Ramon from the bits and pieces that, she'd watched with me. And even she was like, this dude, like, and, the fact that he'd battle all these demons and stuff and come back, I think that's what hit her the most. I guess it's, any person can relate to that, but that still hurts. Scott's death, man. It still hurts.
Definitely. Because he's always one of those people you go to for, like, inspiration or even looking up his promos. He's damn good in the mic.
Bro, I've busted out the Razor Ramon walk in quite a few of my matches during my entrance, and it's not even planned. You just kind of go out there, and it's just like, boom, and everyone's like, this fucking mark, and I'm like, yes, thank you.
Speaking of that, let's turn the table for a little bit. When do you get back in the ring?
I honestly, I don't know. I've said on the pod that I'm looking at 2024. That's the realistic date as of now. I was meant to have, and I'll do a health update and the proper intro later on when I piece the full episode together. But as we record this, I was meant to have an appointment 2 days ago. Unfortunately, the people that were funding me kind of made a little mishap. So I had to reschedule my appointment to January, but that will make it 8 months post-op. And they've said to me in previous appointments that 8 months is when they can even start considering taking the stitch out. It'll be anywhere from 8 months to 18 months, so year and a half. So who knows? I could go to my next appointment and come home without my stitches out, but then I've still got to wait, a couple of months for it to all settle down and yada, yada, yada. And obviously, I've just for the sake of being like, people don't realize that I was wrestling half blind my whole, dare I say career, but the whole 4 years that in total that I was wrestling, people don't realize that I was half blind that whole time. So I want to wait for my eyes they're never going to be 100%. I'm never going to have 20/20 vision, but I want to wait for them to be as strong as they can be. Plus, I need to get some of this weight off that I've put on just sitting on my ass, not being able to work. But I think 2024, hopefully, end of 2023, but 2024 at some point, even if I don't get fully cleared, whatever the fuck that is, I've just had this discussion with my wife. I'm still having at least one last match. And I don't want to have a big hoorah like Crossfire's last match because I'm like, I know I ain't shit. I'm just some fucking mark that put on a pair of tights. But 2024 at the moment, but I will keep you updated 100% on that.
That's good. Is there anyone you want to get in the ring with that you never got to share?
Brother, there is an entire locker room of people that I haven't wrestled, and it's such a cop-out, but we've got a group of rookies now that they're probably the best group of rookies the company's had literally ever, whether before
ICW,
me,
yeah?
after me. What's that?
That's ICW down in Canberra, yeah?
Yeah, well, there's not even just ICW now. I had Lockie James from MXW on. I've talked to him about possibly rolling around with him, and I said that on the pod. Even if I don't wrestle on shows, just being able to... It was so funny as a kid, you picture yourself. I feel bad because I'm meant to be interviewing you, but now you've asked this question and it's spurred. But as a kid, you sit there and you picture yourself, main eventing WrestleMania and all the fucking bells and whistles and the bullshit. But now I'm like, dude, if I could be cleared enough to maybe not be a trainer per se, because I don't think I have the experience level to be a head trainer. That would be very, vain of me to say. But to be able to have a hand in people's training and just roll around, I'd be fine with that. I'm enjoying doing the commentary. I've got nothing but good feedback. I've done a bit of ring announcing here and there while doing the commentaries. And honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't think I was going to be able to wrestle at all. Because I've had these eye issues my whole life, kind of in and out. There was a point where I was like, my eyes were so fucked, I was like, I'm never going to be able to wrestle. And I literally wanted to be the next Jim Ross. So I'm like, I want to be involved in any way I can, but wrestle anyone and everyone. I know that's a cop-out, but it just, at this point, it's like, because I have had to, by the time I get back in the ring, whether it's 2023, 2024, it's going to be 3 or 4 years that I've been out of the ring. I've been out of the ring almost as long as I was in the ring to begin with. So it's like, I just want to wrestle. I just want to wrestle.
While you fight back the itch and all that?
Yeah, I was sitting there, I can't really do much when it comes to setting up the ring at the moment either, because I'm not allowed to do much heavy lifting and stuff. So I'll lift the little poles and the small boards and then, put out the chairs, etc. if we have to do it at the venue. And then I'm watching the guys don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but it's a wrestling podcast. We all know what it is. I'm watching the guys, take bumps and go over some spots for their matches. And I'm literally I hate every single one of you right now. Not really. I love you with all my heart because you're my wrestling fan, but I hate you at the same time. And they're just they're just it's okay. Just let me run the gauntlet when I come back. But
even before they do, let you run it, and it's all your past opponents.
But I'll flip it back to you, otherwise I'm going to be sitting here ranting for another half an hour because I have ADHD, and once I get a thought in my brain, it just hits. But was there a moment past that, the Goldberg streak and, the taser ending it, what moment made you go, I want to do this?
Oh, God.
In terms of just joining the business in general.
I've always been a lifelong fan of the business in general, and I think it was 2017 or 2018. That's when I first got a chance by NCBW. Curtis James contacted me to ref his match that night, and that's when he was defending the New South Wales Heavyweight Championship at the time against Birdman.
Shout out to Birdman. That was who I faced at my NCW show, my one and only NCBW show, Triple Threat with him and Reese Razell. So was that when he contacted you, was it were you hoping to go beyond being a referee into the ring? Because I know that you have done a bit of training here and there, or...
Honestly, yeah, but these days I'm just more fun with reffing. Like, I'm able to travel, mostly I've been traveling to Sydney, but now I'm trying to ease off the Sydney bookings and go to Newcastle. Because Newcastle's a lot easier to get to than Sydney.
Well, that's a fair point, and it's one of those things where, as I say, like, it's Australian wrestling, like, to just be involved, you can still contribute, and I've always said, and maybe I'm biased because I started as a referee, but I've done seminars, I haven't done wrestling seminars, but I've done referee seminars at other companies that I've been at, but I've always told all of them, like, because they're like, oh, I can't wait to get in the ring and do this and this and this. Like, look, you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, it is what it is, I understand. But I always reel them back in, and I'm like, no, being a referee, I wish I had the video pod for that just so I could put that up there, showing off the referee stripes there. But I always tell every young rookie that'll listen, for whatever my opinion may or may not be worth, I truly think that a referee is the most important factor in a professional wrestling side. Like, obviously, the production side of it, if you're streaming or whatever, trumps all of that. But as far as the actual on-screen or on-camera stuff, front of house, I guess front of house would probably be the best if you were to look at it from an actual company standpoint. Referee, to me, they're the one that holds everything together.
Most times, yeah, but then sometimes they get squished in the corner. Oh, shit. Trying to get out of the way.
Oh, look, I've had a couple of times where no matter how good, your ring positioning as a referee, you're going to have at least one slip up here and there. It's part of the business. It's one of those things about wrestling. It's live theater. It's live performance. It's why when, people harp on the it's fake thing, I'm like, motherfucker, let me body slam you and see how long it takes you to get up.
Give him a top, I'll teach him.
But was there a certain moment before Curtis reached out to you where it went from I want to do that to I'm going to do that, or did it all just kind of fall into place as you were going?
It honestly just fell into place and just went from there, honestly.
That's funny because I know so many people, myself included, where that's happened where, I was a fan, saw the TLC 2, Edge spears Jeff Hardy. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I'm like 8 years old. And then a couple of years later, I'm like, I see the Edge, Eddie Guerrero, no DQ match, and it changed to, I'm going to do that. I don't know how, but I'm gonna. And then I went to my first ever ICW show in 2012, and Mr. Saturday Night, Tristan Slade, literally just went out of his way, and he's like, dude, if you're serious about this, come down. And I was like, what? Like... This is just ridiculous because you hear about so many people, gatekeeping the business, and thank God we live in a time where that bullshit's out of the way and people are genuinely, like, hey, look, the business is what it is. If you want to do it, come down as long as you do it properly, sort of thing.
And with that being my first Kingdom show in November, the match I got to ref was Grant Lindstrom versus Genghis Kong, or two big boys going at it.
Genghis is a big dude. I've seen him in person.
Oh, yeah. Just being in his presence is like, hell intimidating.
I've seen him come off the top rope a couple of times, too, with that big splash, and you're like, how the fuck? Yeah. Like, I'm a fat dude, so when I come off the top rope, it's impressive, but he's got, like, the height as well, and I'm just like, that's a lot of room for error.
And that match was one of my favourites I've ref, because, just the chemistry them two had together in the ring. You just see it.
I was kind of sad that weekend, though. Actually, that weekend, peek behind the curtain, I was staying with Zuzu. I won't say where he's staying, obviously, for personal reasons, but I was staying where he's staying. I was meant to do a podcast with him that night before he travelled to the Kingdom show, and I crashed out on the couch. I felt so bad. So shout out to Zuzu here on the pod. I promise I will get to you at some point.
He's one of my best mates in the business.
First time I saw him in person in about 3 years, I think it was, and I was so excited, and then I was hanging out with young Jackson Thornhill, and I just passed out on the couch because I was done from travelling.
Yeah, Coven doesn't take it out of you.
But do you have any plans of getting into the ring at all, or as you said, are you just kind of just happy travelling and being a ref and being a part of the show?
Honestly, at one point I was thought about wrestling again, but I don't want to really do it. It's just more, I'm fine with reffing, help set up the ring and all that stuff. I still get to travel Australia, like Sydney, Newcastle, who knows, Queensland sometime next year, you never know.
It's a good way of looking at it. And as I said, still the most important job for the actual show itself. And I guess you can always take a few bumps if you really get the itch, before or after the show or whatever.
Or you never know if it's playing during them. But, yeah.
Just be the go-to ref bump. Like, who wants to take a ref bump? Steve just comes out of nowhere. I'll do it.
It's happened a few times in matches, but
But at the moment, what does your current 2023 calendar look like for Ref Steve?
Honestly, I've only got one book in for next year, which is at Kingdom, January 28th, for their Purge event.
I'm sure they'll keep bringing you back.
100%. I absolutely love going to Kingdom. It's easy to get to. Like, it's 4 hours on the train compared to Sydney, which is 6.5.
Yeah, well, even from here, 6.5 hours to Sydney by train. If I go to Melbourne, it's like 4.5, which is literally the same amount of time as it takes to drive because it's a direct line. That's why it's like I want to get to Melbourne as well, but Newcastle as well. But unless I had someone to really drive me, I wouldn't really be able to get there unless I flew. And I'm just like, I can't afford that.
I'm mostly just staying like the Newcastle West area because everything's in walking distance. Your Coles, your Woolworths, all that other shit.
There's a lot of great promotions though, like in the Newcastle area. You've got Kingdom as well. You've got Newy Pro, obviously.
Yeah. The good promotions. There's all good promotions all around Australia. From Port Macquarie, you've got NCBW. From Newcastle, like you said, you've got Newy Pro, Kingdom, Suplex, and Sydney. The list goes on in Sydney.
I swear every day there's a new promotion popping up in Sydney almost.
Okay. What are they up, like 20 plus promotions or something now?
And the crazy thing is, like, most of them nowadays are really good. Like, you might have, one bad company pop up here and there, but it's going to be like that in every state and every country, really. It's just, it is what it is. Unfortunately, people get money and they think they can run shows, but shit, who am I to judge? You do your thing.
Works well for you,
Let's just hope that, I've made no secret that even if I don't ever run my own company, I want to at least run one show. And if it ends up being a complete fucking failure, well then, shit, it is what it is. At least I tried.
Hey, no harm in trying.
And that's why I don't like the whole political game. Because, like, you see the work that these, promoters, they put in, it's not just the show day for them. They've got like a whole 2-month prep for this one night, whereas all the wrestlers, they'll just show up, they'll do their thing, and they go home. So I do sympathize with the promoters a lot of the way. But what's your favorite match that you've ref so far? Or a favorite handful of matches?
From my time at NCPW would be let's go Tyler Savage and Jordan versus Curtis James and Chad War in a no DQ tag team title match. That was a hell of a match to be in.
That was fairly recent too, wasn't it?
January, a couple years ago, something like that.
I think it was like 2021.
AWS. My favorite match there would probably be was Goran, Aries, and Jay Sorbet versus 3 other guys, but it's on the AWS YouTube page.
That's a good couple of like guys you put it there. I've met Jay Sorbet a couple of times, and he's been floating around for a few years, and I'm surprised that like his name hasn't been out there more because he's a super talented dude, and I'm expecting Aries to break out sooner than later because his name's really starting to get out there between AWS and All Star and a couple of other promotions.
He's had big matches under him. I think he's facing Ryan Eagles or something soon.
Yeah, I think he's facing him for the All Star title or something. I think I saw. What's your favorite match that you've? Oh, sorry, were you going to continue?
No, you're right.
I was going to say, outside of you actually refereeing, what's your favorite match as a fan that you've watched, whether, on TV or live? Or again, doesn't have to be one match. I'm not going to sit here and put a gun to your head, but
You talk about in person or like as a ref at the event watching?
Either or.
Well, in person was the WWE event a while back. It was CM Punk defending the WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan. That was because you know the history of them two.
Yeah, they had a great string of matches in like 2011, 2012, I think.
And seeing that as a match is just like damn.
See, I didn't go to my first WWE event until 2015, so I've seen a couple of good matches, but not as many good ones as some of my friends have.
As a ref watching, one of my favorite matches I've watched is a match recently. It was Zuzu the Muscle Clown defending the Kingdom Elite Championship against Morgan Rose and Kid Valiant. That was a damn good match.
Yes, I mean, Kid Valiant in particular, I've sung his praises on I don't even know how many episodes of the podcast now. I'm meant to have him on at some point. I was going to have him on a couple months ago, and just life got in the way, unfortunately. But I've ranted about him so many times. The fact that he's only a couple of years in and he's already as good as he is just, it's ridiculous.
And not to mention everything he's already won, like in Melbourne alone.
Yeah, well, kayfabe, shortest reign aside, if you look at his, accolades, he is now a former Deathmatch Down Under heavyweight champion, which is
that's true.
That's still a big deal. Like, lost it all straight away to Gore, but
he beat what's name?
He beat Royce Chambers, and it was a quick match, but they still went balls to the wall. They did their thing, and that actually ended up being Royce Chambers' last match before he stepped away due to mental health reasons, and we can all sympathise with that. I'm not going to harp on that. Mental health comes first.
I thought I was going to say Callum Butcher at first. I thought Valiant might have beat him because I remember Callum's had that title for a long time.
Yeah, Callum was the deathmatch champion, the actual deathmatch champion, and he lost that to Joel back at the Dream Tournament earlier this year, which I still need to watch. I'm so behind on Deathmatch Down Under, which is terrible now that I'm actually able to finally announce that I am their sponsor, because at the ICW New York shows that they did just before in October, my logo, I feel sorry, like poor Joel, to his credit, he's been keeping me up to date, for I think it was February this year that we first organised it, but it just took him forever to organise it and ship it, and the joys of running a wrestling promotion and getting stuff shipped to you from overseas, but ordered it,
all the carriers they go through.
Ordered it in, February, March, whatever it was. Finally got to see it come to fruition in October, which I guess was appropriate because that show happened a week before my birthday, so maybe happy birthday to me, I don't know. But I've got that whole weekend from ICW No Holds Barred that I need to catch up on, plus 2 or 3 shows before that, so I really need to get on that, but yeah.
Hopefully we meet up again one day though, at a show somewhere, that'll be good. It's been a while, I don't think I've seen you in person since that NCBW show where Doc ref your match.
I don't think I have, just because that was 2019, and then we had COVID in 2020, which kind of stopped the world, and then November 2020 was subsequently ended up being my last match, which was funny because I got a slight injury in that match, and everyone thought that was why, and I was like, nope. January, my eye almost fucking exploded, and people were like, "Ooh. What?" And I was like, no, that's an actual thing.
Fucking hell.
But yeah, I'm hoping we'll catch up eventually. I was hoping to get to the next World Series show, but again, it's in March, so even if my stitches do come out, by the time that happens, it's going to be sold out anyway, because it's already 80% sold or whatever. I think one of the nights in Melbourne sold out completely.
But yeah, I'm not really going to go to 10 this year because, the lineup's great and all that, but not having the money and all that, because Sydney is an expensive place to stay, as you know.
Yeah, I will say though, as strong as this event is looking and the last one did, the ones previous before COVID was still much, much stronger, which I guess, they do what with the available, and got to try and, I think their issue was at the same time though, as much as they had all the star power for the first ones, they kind of oversaturated it, and it didn't really leave much room for our actual local talent outside of a couple of names like a Robbie Eagles, a Mick Moretti, Jack Bonza. Now they've kind of honed it in to give our guys more chance to shine, which I really appreciate, because especially in Sydney, they've got the PWA guys. Melbourne, they've got, MCW, PCW, DMDU if they wanted to take it. There's a couple of others. So I think it's good and bad at the same time, but it'd be a great show, and if they put it back on Fight TV like they did for the last one, I'll definitely be ordering if I've got the funds.
I never have attended the WSW event, but another thing that made me passionate about refereeing too is, what was it? It was a WWE tour in Brisbane. I got to meet my favourite referee, as everyone calls him, Little Nate.
Yes, Charles Robinson. Fantastic referee.
And just seeing him ref in person, just like, opens your mind what to do as a ref,
It's insane the amount of work that he does behind the scenes as well, with like the ring crew and production. That dude has like 3 different jobs and then still goes out there like night after night reffing these long-winded matches. Like, people tell you, as a wrestler, you've got to have your cardio up. As a referee, you need to have your cardio up even more than that, because
and your voice.
Because while they're on the ground selling, you're still like doing shit. Like, I don't know how many nights after refereeing I've come home with a lost voice, and unfortunately I'm now back in that same boat because I commentate / ring announce, and I come home and I can't I can't talk.
It's a common occurrence for me when I lose my voice, just like, you can't talk.
I had a conversation once with High Octane, ICW Hall of Famer, when I was first starting, and I reffed I don't know how many matches in one night, and I was absolutely buggered. And he told me, he's like, I always say, especially for a referee or a commentator, if you lose your voice by the end of the night, that's a sign that you've done a good job.
Fair point.
Because so many referees will go 1, 2, and I feel bad, but I've been a fan at like live events where I've literally heckled the ref because I'm like, I can't hear you.
Oh, God. Speaking of that, you reminded me of the Kingdom show when I was reffing the Grant and Jenga's match. The crowd chants are hilarious, like, this ref sucks, this ref can't count, this ref's corrupt. I was like, just hard to ignore that and just get you to break. He's like, fuck.
My very first time reffing, it was like right at the peak of the Ty Dillinger 10 chance.
Oh, God.
So I'm counting the dudes out of the ring, and I'm like, 1, and the crowd's like 10, 2, 10, and in my head I'm like, fucking fuck. It's like I didn't.
It's happened to me on plenty of shows. I know how that feels.
Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna go 1, 2, 10, because they're saying 10, and I'm like, no.
They do it to fuck with you, but it's a funny thing about being a ref.
Yeah, it's people don't realize. I think referees get heckled more than wrestlers at times. Like I've been there where I've been like in a match, and I've been like the heel, and like my opponent will kick out at 2, and I'll get in the ref's face and heel it up, whatever. And there's always that one dude in the crowd that's like, punch the ref, and you're just like, in your head you're like, I can't, like, sir, you know what this is.
Exactly. You don't want to lose or get disqualified.
But if we were to, put out our fantasy hats and say that you were Steve the wrestler rather than Steve the ref, who are some of your ultimate dream opponents / dream match stipulations?
If we go in Australia, only, obviously I'd have to include the 2 people who trained me. That'll be Curtis James and Chad War. And then from them will be my best mates in the wrestling business, being Zuzu and Goran. I wouldn't mind wrestling them, along with Tyler Savage, MFN, Jenny Rage, those people. All awesome people, all of them.
Yeah, I hope I can tangle with Zuzu at some point.
Oh, that'll be a good match.
As a ref, as a sorry,
You're right.
I was almost going to go to the next question, but the second part of that question, what are some of your dream stipulations if you were to put on that hat?
I was like match types.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because for me, I'm like, as barbaric as it is, or might even be basic, but there's always that thing of, I'll beat your ass in a steel cage.
For me, it's not one that gets booked a lot, honestly, but maybe Last Man Standing.
There's been some pretty great last man standing matches over the years in a variety of different companies.
Because, you know, whether you win or lose the Last Man Standing match, you know, you're going to give it your all.
That's one of my
Your opponent
favorites.
has to keep you down to the
It's
10.
one of my favorite stipulations. I like the Texas, not the full blown like deathmatch. I love deathmatch, but I have to be in the room. But I like the Texas deathmatch rules, where you have to get the 3 count or a submission before the 10. Because it's like I love last man standings and like the occasional draw here and there helps with the drama. But I love the idea that there can't be a draw. Like you have to be a winner. Like you're essentially keeping your opponent down for a 13 count. It's a great stipulation. I remember like James Storm, Chris Harris, they had one of my favorite ones in like 2007 in TNA. But as a referee, what are some of your dream like people that you wish you could referee for? Like if you were to be able to go back in time, whatever, build the DeLorean, get, you know, Bill and Ted's phone booth, whatever the fuck time travel mechanism you're using, and you could place yourself as the referee, like what match or matches would it be?
Oh, God. I wouldn't mind one day maybe refereeing like a Buddy Matthews match. That's always been a dream. Or like, you know, Lance Archer. He's another dream. Like he's one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. House of Black. Just honestly, I'd be happy with anything to ref. Males or females.
Are there any classic matches that you'd like to put yourself in and take out, you know, Earl Hebner, Mike Chioda, Little Nature, whoever, and put yourself front and center?
I wouldn't take out those refs because it takes away the match, but one of my favorite matches of all time is the historic rivalry between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19.
Yes, the final match they had. Fantastic match. A lot of people shit on that one, but I enjoyed that one.
It's one of my favorites. I like that one.
A lot of people say that 17 was their best one. I personally, I think 19 was the best one. I think it goes 19, 17, 15. I think somehow they managed to top each other every time, but that's just me.
After 19, they both went their separate ways. I think that's when Rock went Hollywood and
yeah, Stone Cold, you know, rode off into the sunset or whatever it was. But
now Austin's back in the ring because he wants to wrestle again next year, apparently.
Yeah, I've actually been having this conversation with my wife. Like, who do you think he's going to wrestle? Because he's always kept himself in shape, but there was a video of him training on his social media, and he was training like an absolute beast, like harder than he has ever. And it's like, there's definitely got to be something to that. Like, surely, otherwise, why else would he be putting it out there on social media? But I don't know. Who knows? You know, stay tuned, I guess. But the one that I really want to see at the moment is Cena versus Austin. Because like there was good. You know, the chance, you know, there's like the rumors and the speculation of Cena versus Austin Theory. I'm like that's cool, but Austin Theory still has a lot more time left than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like you could push that back to either SummerSlam or even WrestleMania 40 if you really wanted to. Like I'm like it's just like Cena versus Austin for some reason. It's really screaming out to me, but I reckon he'll probably eventually face Brock just to make up for walking out all those years ago if he does really get the bug, but I don't know.
But there's always that spot WWE does. They have the legends in the Rumble, so he could be one of them.
Could you imagine you watching the Rumble, the clock counts down and you hear the glass break like that pop would just...
It'll be like the Edge return.
1,000%. And even, like, it'd be predictable, but there's like a lot of, you know, talk of Rock versus Roman. If Rock came back and won the Rumble to do that, I wouldn't even be mad. If they managed to keep it a secret and you hear the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, if you smell, the fucking roof comes off that place. Actually, I think they're in a stadium, so I think it doesn't have a roof, but whatever.
Yeah.
You get the point.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then, like, with WrestleMania 39 being in Hollywood, that's probably where Rock will go into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I was thinking if they're going to do it, have Rock wrestle his last match in Hollywood and then go in next year because it's WrestleMania 40. So it's like it's a milestone because it's a round number. But I could see Rock going into the Hall of Fame and then wrestling the next night anyway.
That's true. Because, you know, Rock's done a fuck ton of shit since leaving WWE. Like with the, what's he call it? I think he bought XFL or Vince. Is that what
Yeah,
it's called?
he and his ex, it still weirds me out. Like, I understand, everyone has a different thing, but his ex-wife is his business partner, but he and Denny Garcia are part owners of the XFL, and I'm actually keen to see what he does with that, because he's been pretty quiet on that front. He had an announcement about it, I think it was the start of this year, that he was looking at possibly a 2023 startup, maybe 2024, but it'd probably be more 2025 if he does end up coming back to the ring and whatever, but still not that far away in hindsight.
That's true. Oh, I was seeing this thing on Facebook the other day too. Apparently, Usos and Roman are rumored to drop it. So who do you think they'll beat them?
I don't know, because I still feel like, even though he's like injured at the moment, I still feel like at WrestleMania they're gonna do the Paul brothers versus the Usos, and I have a feeling that's who they're gonna beat because it's celebrities and that's how it is. But I don't know, because there's really no tag team at the moment unless they build up, the Viking Raiders who have re-debuted now with Sarah Logan, or
They're fucking intense.
build the OC
yeah.
up for the next year, like have them come out of this feud with the Judgment Day, or even on the other side of that, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, make them a proper tag team in the Judgment Day. But other than that, because like they've got the Brawling Brutes, but I don't know if that's really believable, to be honest. But I'm not the booker. I'm just the fan. But yeah, I think the OC or the Judgment Day, where we're looking at it now, you've got enough time to build that up. But as far as Roman,
He's been unstoppable lately.
I honestly thought before Theory had that failed cash in, that Theory was going to cash it in, but then be a transitional champion to either Cody or KO or someone else. But I honestly don't know, because it's like Rock versus Roman at the end of the day doesn't need to be for the title, and with how hot Sami Zayn is at the moment, you could literally, if Rock versus Roman doesn't happen, or hell, make WrestleMania's 2 nights, make Roman wrestle both nights, Sami Zayn could literally have his own Kofi Mania type moment at the moment with how over he is. Like, I've talked about this with my wife. I'm like, imagine if Sami Zayn wins the Rumble or wins the Elimination Chamber. Like, you would be in that match pulling for Sami Zayn. Shout out to the dog in the background. Unfortunately, this is an audio-only podcast, so people can't see that.
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
It's
It's all good. I'll leave that in as a gag. Everyone can just imagine the dog. They can imagine what breed they think it is. But no, I think Sami Zayn. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think Sami Zayn to dethrone Roman. But yeah, as for the Usos, I said I don't know. OC maybe, Judgment Day maybe, but I don't really see the Usos losing, which is crazy. Like, they could hold the tag titles for another year, and I wouldn't care, because every time they step in the ring, they have fantastic matches. Like, the Usos, for me, are really up there with FTR in terms of what they're doing from a tag team standpoint, and have been for the last couple of years. They've been consistent over and over. But that's just my opinion. What do you? I'll flip it back to you, seeing as how I'm the one that, it's on the podcast. Who do you think is going to dethrone those guys?
Oh, God. Tag team? Oh, God. I'm not sure about tag teams, but I wouldn't mind the OC giving them another run now that Triple H is booking stuff.
Yeah, well, that was my thoughts. I'm like, I don't see them doing it, but you've got enough time. The booking time could be there to build them up for it.
And as for the Undisputed Universal, or whatever you want to call it, something tells me it's going to be Drew because, as you've seen on SmackDown, he went up and backed up the Brawling Brutes against the Bloodline.
I wouldn't be mad at that. I felt so sorry for Drew that, it took all this time for him to become a WWE champion, wins it twice during the pandemic, no crowd, loses it before the crowd comes back, first match at Mania. It was a swerve because I think everyone was expecting Drew to beat Lashley at Mania. So in a way, it was great that Lashley won. But I'd love to see Drew, especially seeing as how it didn't happen, at in the UK. I'd love to see Drew, especially if it's at WrestleMania, if they don't end up doing Rock versus Roman, win the titles at Mania. That'd be a great moment for him, I think. But it is what it is. There's a lot of people that could win the Universal at the moment.
Oh, 100%. Like another guy, I think he's currently out and injured, who's had a history with the Bloodline, could be Kevin Owens as well.
I was literally just about to say, as I was having a sip of my water, I was thinking Kevin Owens. And that's more, again, maybe similar to the OC. It could be wishful thinking. But I'm a mark for KO. And again, that feud that he had with Roman at the beginning of, actually end of 2020 into the beginning of 2021, capped off with that, back to what you said with the Last Man Standing. Fantastic Last Man Standing match, considering there was no fucking crowd. And they still put on an absolute banger. You could see KO, and that's where the whole Sammy thing can play into it as well. Because it's like, whose side Sammy on? Is he on Roman's side? Is he on KO's side? Maybe you make it a triple threat, and that's how Sammy steals the win.
Something tells me, though, like, at Survivor Series, it's going to be the Bloodline with Sammy versus Drew, Brutes, and the mystery partner is probably going to be KO.
I still think it's going to be KO because they've said they give him 6 to 8 weeks. Survivor Series will be 5. We all know what KO is like. Like, he lives and breathes this. He's put his body on the line for this over and over and over again. And I was talking to my buddy Sean, who lives in Canada, about this, and I'm like, I could see Sami Zayn being in the match. Kevin Owens only has to take one bump. He could be the last guy in, take a horrendous bump, stretch it out that way to protect him from thing, and then, because usually if a person leaves the match, they forfeit because it's War Games, but because it's like an injury thing, that could be Sammy's way of getting a loophole of leaving the match because he's worried about Kevin Owens, and that can set up a whole thing with Sammy and Roman as well, because you abandon the bloodline, you're meant to be honorary use. There's a lot of,
I've been very oozy.
Again, this is all just me fantasy booking, but it's all very much in the realm of possibility. And another one I'd like to see would be Cross in the War Games match, and I could see him defending Roman as well, but I'd like to see if KO is, like, they 100% rule him out of the match from his injury, having Cross and McIntyre coming off the back of their feud, they're like, I don't like you, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that can always, again, play into the finish. In the middle of War Games, Cross and McIntyre start brawling. The Brawling Brutes are left there for the Bloodline to just tear them apart because Sheamus and McIntyre and Cross are killing each other, which allows, Reigns to pin Sheamus or whatever.
That's true. Speaking of Cross too, I remember that little angle he teased, like, going after Roman, but I guess I never did anything with it.
Well, when his first debut, he came out and he was like TikTok and
Roman was in the ring with the Bloodline and all that. This was before Sammy joined.
Because he was going after both Roman and McIntyre, switched to McIntyre, like, for the actual match, which makes sense. You don't want to go after the Universal Champ straight away, because then where do you go from there when you lose in your first, re-debut, I guess, or return, whatever you want to call it. But they didn't really go from there.
But paid off Sheamus when he went off to Cena, as you know.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, I could see Cross. I feel like they're gonna split the belts back up sooner than later, or at least I hope they do. But I could see Cross being, even as the undisputed champ, I could see Cross being undisputed champ. Don't get me wrong, but I could see them splitting up the titles and having Cross on one show, and then either Reigns or McIntyre or KO, whoever ends up being on the other.
And as you know, if you want to go fantasy booking again, I really do hope they bring back Big Gold one day.
Oh, bro. There's been so many like fan arts and concepts where it's not exactly the big goal, but they've kind of like it's the universal it still says universal championship, but it's kind of based off the big goal. There's so much fan art that I look at all of them and I'm like, I'd take any of these. But the weird thing is the actual universal title, it grew on me over the years. Like they had the first red one at the SummerSlam, which looked terrible, and then they repainted it and they're like, okay, we'll make it like, center, change the centerpiece, whatever. And it looked good, but at the same time, I don't like the fact that it's the same belt with different straps.
Just the blue one. Speaking of that, though, like the first Universal title, you reminded me of a former champion of it, Bray Wyatt. What do you think they're going to do with him?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people start to turn on him already and say that it's boring and this and that. I'm like, I like it because we're trying to find out about who Uncle Howdy is and yada yada yada. I know that I think it was last week's SmackDown as we're recording this, he had that little altercation with LA Knight. I would love to see those two have a proper feud because I feel like it's just going to be a one and done where Bray, wins. And people are complaining about that too because they're like, oh, LA Knight got his name back and now he's jobbing to Bray. And I'm like, he's the number 2 face in the company. Like, you can only benefit from working with him regardless of winning or losing. It's scripted. But I would like to see a proper feud because even that little promo where, like, the TV was flickering and LA Knight was like, no, you turn that crap off, put it on me. I feel like the promo battles between Bray and LA Knight would be absolutely fantastic. And even my wife was, like, injected into my veins. Like... And just the little sneaky headbutt at the end from Bray, the way that he did it. And then LA Knight stands back up and Bray's already gone. It's just like, oh crap, where'd he go? And it's like, you could work with that on so many levels.
Do you think Bray will bring out the Fiend or no?
I think the Fiend will come back eventually, but I think it will still be a slightly different reincarnation, which does have me worried about the fan reaction because as bad as, the whole Randy Orton burning him storyline was, I thought the costume looked kind of cool and I understood what they were doing, but people were just like, no, that's not the Fiend. So I just hope that if he does change the mask or change the pants or whatever, that people don't just go, nah, that's not the Fiend, because Bray Wyatt is the Fiend. The Fiend is Bray Wyatt. Like, it doesn't matter what he's wearing.
Then you got those, what is it? Abby the Witch, Mercy the Buzzard, and
well, he's returned at Extreme Rules where they had the full human-sized versions of the puppets, led to all this speculation that he was going to have the Wyatt Six because that's what he'd been teasing on Twitter. It was the Wyndham Six and then the Cult of Wyndham and then turned into Wyatt Six when he became Bray Wyatt again. There was this rumor that this wrestler's going to be this one and this one's going to be this one, and I was seeing all these theories, and even myself and my wife on a recent episode, we talked about like, who do you think it's going to be and this and that, but I don't know, like there's so many options that Bray Wyatt could go right now, and I'm just happy to have him back as a mark. Like every segment he's in, my eyes are just glued to the screen as much as possible.
100%. Like he's always been awesome in the ring and on the promos.
I am excited though because, of course, if you believe, social media and the dirt sheets and yada yada yada, there was the leaks. I think it was like the week or two before Uncle Howdy showed up. They're like, oh, he's filed for this. He also filed for the trademark for Uncle Harper, and there's a lot of speculation that that's going to be like the good side of Uncle Howdy. So it's like, devil on his shoulder almost in a way, but it's represented by the mask. So it would be interesting to see what does come, because there was a lot of people, there was the photo going around of the earring speculating that Uncle Howdy was actually Bo Dallas. So I'm like, there's a million possibilities that all of this could go, and I'm just like, it's fun to speculate though, I guess.
That's true. I think one of the rumored characters is going to be Dexter Lumis or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were speculating that he could be Mercy the Buzzard or something, but There was also reports that Vincent from Ring of Honor, who was in The Righteous, which was like a cult thing, apparently he was backstage at a Raw event, and I was like, oh fuck, put him with Bray Wyatt, like that would be perfect. But I don't know, I don't know where this Bray stuff's gonna go. I'm just looking forward to seeing him get back in the ring, and as I said, to bring it back, I hope that him and LA Knight have a proper feud rather than just a one and done, because you could stretch that into the Rumble, realistically, before Bray goes on and does whatever heading into WrestleMania season.
Apparently, he's been pushing to bring back Bo Dallas and Eric Rowan, I've heard.
Yeah, well, I've heard that, and I think, you know, if you're going to do it, you could almost have Eric Rowan be Uncle Harper, because, of course, you know, Uncle Harper, an obvious reference to, you know, John Huber, Brody Lee, as Luke Harper. Eric Rowan was the tag team partner, so if he's Uncle Harper and Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy, that could work fantastically as well. It's just, I think it's just a matter of wait and see at the end of the day, you know. I hate saying let it play out, but that's all we've got to do at the moment. Like, it's just, Bray is just such a creative genius, and with having Triple H in charge of booking and stuff, it makes you expect good things, and I just hope I don't get let down, because I have so much hype for this angle.
Speaking of creative genius too, though, the stuff Harper did after he left WWE was awesome. Like Dark Order, he chose all those guys by themselves, and they lived up to the name. And as much as I hate saying this, but as soon as you know what happened to Harper, the Dark Orders kind of went downhill.
Yeah, they've kind of just floated, and they had that little bit of like direction with Hangman Page, and then it just, I don't know. It's like a lot of things, and I feel so bad because I've had so many people like get mad because almost every time I've brought up AEW in the last probably 6 months on the podcast, it's almost always been negative, but I'm enjoying. There's a lot of performers on the roster that I enjoy, like the Acclaimed. I love FTR. I love, but there's
Speaking
just
of the Acclaimed Captain Insano.
Yes, I popped so hard for that. You have no idea. That's one thing I'm looking forward to actually in the video game, is that apparently they did secure the rights, and Captain Insano will be in the AEW video game, which pops the shit out of me. But like, they did this thing with the Elite 2-3 weeks ago where it was almost like a Thanos style thing where they were being erased, and it was only a 30-second vignette, but it was fantastic. And then this week's Dynamite, and I've ranted to like 4 different people about this already, and it was only yesterday, day before, I don't know. I think it was yesterday. And the way they announced their return after all of this like hype from that one little 30-second clip, it's just, here's the match graphic. And don't get me wrong, Death Triangle versus the Elite, it's going to be a fucking fantastic match, but you go from having this little cryptic message to just, here it is, they're coming back on this date. I'm not Tony Khan, I don't have millions and billions of dollars. I also don't snort as much coke as he does, allegedly. Allegedly, for legal reasons, allegedly. But how do you have this real, fantastic, cryptic fucking vignette that literally goes for 30 seconds that has people speculating for 2 weeks, 3 weeks off of one clip, and then you just go, oh yeah, they're coming back here, watch the match.
Like, something tells me whoever wins that match between Death Triangle and the Elite, House of Black return maybe?
That's another thing that I thought was fantastic. They drew the Julia Hart heel turn out for way too long, but the vignette that she did where she was resurrecting them, absolutely fucking perfect.
I think once they return, they're going to be fucking unstoppable.
I'd love to see them as the trios champs if you throw Brody King in there as well, but as tag champs, Murphy and, or should say Matthews and Black as tag champs would just fucking inject it into my veins. But
I think it's going to be more probably Buddy and Brody as tag champs with Malachi going for the world.
That's fair, because I guess it's the House of Black, so he's like the pseudo leader, but I could see those two as tag champs and then having Brody be like TNT champion or something would be cool, but they could even Freebird rule it if they really wanted to, but there's just something... I know that, like, the small guy, big guy is a great dynamic, but the story between Black and Matthews or Murphy, whatever you want to call him, doesn't fucking matter. It's been intertwined over multiple promotions now. Like, even before they were in AEW, when they first got released, they carried their WWE feud over into the independents and did it through multiple independent promotions, and there's a lot of independent promotions in the US that have quite a great following, and they have, you know, pay-per-views on IWTV or Fight TV, whatever platform they use, and they carried that over, kept the hype going, and then the pop when it was revealed in AEW was fantastic. And that's why I was kind of soured on the Julia Hart thing. But again, I'm just a mark with a microphone. I rant. That's what I do.
Hey, everyone has the right to do whatever they want, you know. Like,
well, that's what I look at the end of the day. Like,
at
the end of the day, Tony Khan, he owns the company. He's the booker of the company. He can do what he wants. I might like it. I might dislike it. My opinion's not going to change what he's doing. Like, they're still making money to an extent. They have lost a lot of steam. Like, there was, you know, people saying that they're going to put WWE out of business. I don't believe for a second that was going to be a thing, but I believe, like, and they still are an alternative, but at the end of All Out last year, when Adam Cole come out and Daniel Bryan come out and CM Punk was first back, it was like they'd reached another level and they kind of just coasted and went back down. And again, they're still being successful, way more successful than anything I've ever done, but it's just they lost so much momentum, and it just, as a fan, it's so disappointing to see.
I would have a question for you, but you're probably going to hate me for asking it. You get to choose one person from, like, AEW, WWE, New Japan to have on your podcast. Who is it?
Ooh. So,
like, to be on the active roster.
Like current day active.
Yeah.
Whew. Fuck that.
For example, you could choose House of Black, even though they're out with injury, but they're still active.
I was just thinking, because I'm like, if you factor in injured people, no, but KO is one that I'd love to just pick his brain, because I'm a mark, but someone that I'd love to have on, and he is technically active, is Matt Hardy.
Yeah, good choice there.
Or even not actually member of the roster, but if I could have Jim Ross on.
Yeah.
Because I don't listen to other wrestling podcasts as frequently as I used to. Because let's face it, everyone and their dog has a podcast now, so I've got no hope of competing with anyone. But so many people shit on JR because he'll go on his podcast and he'll, you know, tell his honest opinion about AEW, and he'll say the positives and the negatives, and the AEW fans will just focus on the negatives and be like, this guy's burying the company that he works for, fuck him, fire him, this, that. And I'm like, no, I would love to sit down with Jim Ross and just be like, look, I don't want you to bury anyone, you don't have to name names, but what's your opinion on what is happening here? Because I guarantee you that man would sit there and fucking give you some knowledge that you would not expect. But if you want to talk wrestlers, I'd say Matt Hardy for that same reason.
If he was still here today, your shirt would be a good one to pick his brain as well.
What's up?
Your shirt would be a good name to pick his brain.
Oh, yes.
As well, if he was still here today.
Eddie Guerrero, yes. Well, this has the whole Guerrero family on this. Chavo is another one that I'd love to pick his brain, because that dude is so fucking smart. And the amount of wrestling-related projects that he's involved in at the moment, he's actually involved in the Von Erichs movie that's about to come out, which has got me pretty excited because there's some pretty big names in that. They've fucking just announced that MJF's playing one of the Von Erich brothers. Zac Efron's playing the main character, and although he's not as big star as he was, say, 10 years ago, that's still a pretty big name to have attached to a wrestling project, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, I think Matt Hardy, if we're going just wrestlers, I'd say Matt Hardy. If not, I'd stretch it and say Jim Ross. But what's your question?
Speaking of MJF too, do you think they're going to give it to him?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, because there's this weird thing with Mox, and I've mentioned it a few times, where I'm not a fan per se. I'm never going to own John Moxley merchandise. But he is such a fucking warhorse, and a workhorse rather, not warhorse. That's a completely different wrestler. He's such a workhorse that he literally threw his entire life in shambles. He lost the title to Punk. He was going to go do his own thing. He was meant to be going on holidays for like 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it was. And the company calls him. Everything changes. He's got the belt back on him. I think the role that John Moxley is on right now, even MJF, as big as his return was, I don't know if it's a smart move. Like, MJF winning is great, but where do you go from that? Like, I think Moxley could carry the title a bit longer. Maybe even if it goes only until February, where it goes Revolution, and MJF somehow gets another shot. Maybe. I don't know, but I don't know if I take the belt off Moxley right now. He's on a fucking tear.
I think let's just say by some way, MJF does beat Mox this, what is it, Saturday or Sunday, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's this weekend, actually, isn't it? I was going to buy it, but I didn't have the funds.
Try and recruit him as well. Because as you know, Regal and MJF have that history where Regal rejected MJF's WWE promo.
Yeah, well, they're doing this really weird thing with MJF at the moment where, like, he's a heel, but he's a face. He's more of a tweener, which I get it, but pick a side. But I think if anyone was going to beat Moxley at the moment, I think MJF is the obvious choice. Like, you know, they went to the finals of the tournament. Moxley beat Danielson. If Danielson didn't win that, then I don't see anyone else winning that, I think. But then at the same time, and this is more of a mark standpoint, I'm looking at the Eliminator tournament they're having right now to determine the next number one contender. I'm really pulling for Ethan Page to win that because he's been busting his ass, and I could see him in that main event slot, but I don't see him winning the title just yet. So it's like, I don't know, maybe have MJF beat Moxley, have Ethan Page win, and then Ethan Page goes on to have not just one match with MJF, but again, stretch it out, have a feud, build both their stock, make Ethan Page a star, even without winning the world title. I think MJF could do that. The promo battles between them would be fantastic, but I don't know. I don't see Mox losing the title personally, but if they're going to do it, it has to be MJF at the pay-per-view this weekend. It was a very long-winded answer, but again, I'm ADHD as fuck, and I have thoughts crossed everywhere.
It's good. I don't mind. I like hearing the answers, like where you get into it and you give a good reason behind it.
This is why when we're sorting it out, I was like, because we're like, I've got you on my personal Facebook, I'm just going to call you a messenger rather than fuck around with Zoom, because I'll be halfway through a fort and Zoom will cut us off. Like, at least with this, I can talk all day, really, until my wife comes home from work. I don't think people want to listen to a 5-hour podcast, but yeah, I think, yeah, I honestly, my prediction is that Moxley will retain, but eventually it has to be MJF that does take it. I do agree with that.
And I don't know, if MJF does win, something tells me Regal's going to do something, like he'll try and recruit him or something. That's my guess.
It'd be kind of predictable in a way, but even having Regal turn on the Blackpool Combat Club to help MJF win, I honestly...
Because the Blackpool Combat Club comes from Regal's background.
Because Regal, he's always done his best work as a heel, especially as a comedy heel, so I feel like him as a heel manager for MJF, those two, like, just the promos that they've had back and forth in the last couple of weeks have been fantastic alone. So having them actually work together, and MJF obviously doesn't need a mouthpiece. We're well aware of that. But a lot of the times his promos, despite being a heel, still get him cheered. And obviously the majority of AEW's fans, they're smart fans anyway. They know the business. So Regal has the respect there. But they play along with Regal, so to speak. If he's a heel, they'll still boo for the most part. So having, Regal kind of be MJF's, Paul Heyman, dare I say, where, MJF can say a few words here and there, but let the wrestling and his trash talk during the match do the thing. Like, let Regal be his agent where, if you want to wrestle my guy, you have to, jump through all these hoops and yada yada, because why the fuck not? Having MJF maybe even adopt the brass knucks would be another little thing for him, because let's face it, his whole gimmick the entire time has been in AEW. Every year, he wins the AEW Dynamite ring. I feel like he's used that ring so many times to sneak a win. You could do that a spot where he pulls out the ring. The referee grabs the ring. No. Regal slides him the knucks. And everyone's just like, oh my God, no. Punches Moxley with the knucks. Like,
they'll get them booed out of the building.
Dude, like, I'm not saying I'm a creative genius or nothing like that, but just could you imagine that? Like,
the heat from that would be intense.
Or even on the opposite end, Regal, acts as if he's going to give Moxley the brass knucks, and he's like, what? I don't want it. That's a distraction for MJF to use the ring. And it turns out it was all just a ruse for Regal to, get the ref distracted. But I feel like having MJF go to use the ring, ref takes it, Regal slides him the knucks. I'd pop. I'd fucking pop.
Speaking of Regal too, like, even though it wasn't like much physical activity, just seeing him getting that brawl the other day was good.
Yes, it's always good. Like, I'm still, like, I don't watch weekly because my brother-in-law was the one that when AEW first started, my brother-in-law bought the AEW Plus subscription, and every week we'd sit there, and there was a couple of weeks there that it got to the point where we'd missed an episode here and there, and it was fine. I'd still buy all the pay-per-views. I haven't bought a pay-per-view since... No, it wasn't All Out. What pay-per-view did Punk beat Hangman at? It was Double or Nothing this year?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I that pay-per-view, like, there were so many good matches on the pay-per-view, but at the same time, the whole thing just felt flat, if that makes sense. I was like, look, it was good, but I don't think it was fully worth the price of its money. And look, I'm just one dude. But I was like, if you're going to throw $30 at a wrestling promotion, don't have like 10 fucking matches or 12 matches, or whatever it was. And then especially that's how it ended. Like, I know, look, accidents happen, botches happen. I've botched more times than I can count, but like when you put CM Punk in the main event, that match in itself felt flat, and I was like, ah. And then you watch the weeklies, and they just really fell off for me. But there is a lot of stuff currently, as I said, when you first brought up AW, like the MJF Regal stuff, that's one of the ones that, no matter which way this goes, I could watch MJF and Regal forever. Like, they just have such good chemistry.
Like, if he wasn't retired, even Regal coming out for one more match against MJF would be good.
Oh, absolutely.
That way, the history between MJF has a way to beat the guy who denied him,
Fantastic storytelling. And again, no matter which way it goes, whether it's them feuding or them teaming, you can still use that. Like, if Regal, as I said, I'm just fantasy booking this. Odds of this happening are, fucking absolutely minuscule. But if Regal was to turn on Moxley, join MJF, you could bring that in. It's like, no, I didn't deny you. It's like, I saw potential in you, but you just weren't ready. Whereas he can be like, no, now you are ready. Shout out to Steve's doggy.
First dog on the podcast?
Yes. She wanted to say hello. He wanted to say hello.
Hello. I thought Talika was back there in the background or something. I mean, Mrs. Crossfire. Sorry.
No, it's just me. Although I'm pretty sure this house is haunted, so if you see something moving, don't fucking mind me. No, I've got the back window open just there, so you can probably just kind of see the corner of the window, all the birds and shit. They love our grass. Teak's always leaving stuff out for them and whatnot. But I will try and like move away from the fantasy booking. Otherwise, I'm gonna be here for another hour, just fucking going off. But I've already extenuated all the questions. I've only got one question left, and I always, before I end the podcast, I always ask a non-wrestling question, just because I like to kind of end it and give like a fun fact, if you will, about the person I'm talking to, yada, yada, yada. Sorry, I'm tripping all over my words today. I'm having really bad fucking headaches with my eyes. So I'm like literally halfway through reading the questions and it's like, boom. But yeah, I usually ask a non-wrestling question just to kind of end it on like a fun fact, as I said. With yours, obviously, this will actually blend into when we go into all the plugs and stuff for your socials and Twitch and all the fun stuff. Your Twitch name is Charizard Steve. So,
yeah.
Obviously, one would make an ass out of you and me. One would assume that you're a Pokemon fan, much like me. I've got fucking Suicune here on my arm. I'm assuming that Charizard is your favorite Pokemon.
You're correct.
Okay. So, on that note, my question for you, and as I said, I think it was before we actually started recording properly, I've technically made it a two-part question, just because, for whatever reason, it just popped in my head. But the first one was, what is your favorite generation of Pokemon? If you can only pick one.
Well, the new game's out today, so who knows? I haven't had a chance to play
Dude,
that yet.
I've been watching so many like TikTok videos and Instagram videos of that, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I had a Switch.
I've got the Switch and it's already installed, but I just haven't had a chance to play it. Like, I was doing the interview first.
I was gonna, when my eyes healed, I was gonna reward myself by buying a Switch, but unfortunately, medical bills have gotten in the way of that, so it'll probably be a little bit later on down the line. But eventually, I want to get a Switch. And this, honestly, like, I don't want to overstate it, but just from what I've seen, it looks like it might be the best Pokemon game ever, just because of how interactive and the way we've evolved and everything is just, it's insane. I was watching someone that got early access and they were just flying around the map showing just how fucking big it is, and I was just like, bro, like...
I've avoided all spoilers, so I didn't watch any videos or anything, like, because, you want to be surprised.
Yeah, well, I haven't watched any like actual gameplay in terms of like the storyline, but I've just watched people just flying around the map and just showing everything, and it's just like, whoa, that's a lot of stuff for a fucking Pokemon game.
Especially like a tiny little card or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, back to...
Even speaking of Pokemon too, like, it's insane. Like, let's just say you pay $6 for a pack, for example, and you could pull like a $300 card. And
it hurts me very often. All of my Pokemon cards, my Yu-Gi-Oh cards, all of that, when I was about 18, 19, literally went in the trash.
So you pretty much chucked out a
now,
ton of money.
I know for a fact, I didn't have a fucking $100,000 fucking Charizard or whatever sitting around, but I know that a lot of those, the Pokemon cards specifically, I'd had since I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. So I know that for a fact that there was probably at least a little bit of money. Like, if I had have sold them as a set, there was probably still a couple of hundred sitting there, and it still gets me.
These days, though, like, it's just insane how much money you can make off that market.
I mean, the same happened with my old wrestling title belts, the kid-size ones. I was in a very toxic relationship, and they got thrown out, and now I'm like, my current wife has then gone and rebought them, plus the ones I didn't have for our future kids. They're meant to be for our future kids, but I'm always running around the house just being a dickhead just to make my wife laugh like I'm the champion. But like even them, like they're pieces of plastic, and you can sell them for $50, $60 a piece just because of how old they are now. It's insane.
I've got my custom Undertaker one in the room.
Yeah, I saw that one that you showed. When you sent me the photo of it, I was like, bro. I don't have any actual like replicas, but one day I shall have a man cave and I will just have like a wall of championship belts.
Have you seen like those photos people post on that Facebook group? Have like, I don't know, 20, 30 of them. It's like, fucking hell.
Yeah, I've seen people they've had like an entire it's just a room for belts basically, and I'm like, I want to have like a little feature wall or something and I'll be happy, but these people are like, no, this is my belt room, and it's just cabinet after cabinet, and it's like, holy fuck. We're back to the question, what is your favorite generation of Pokemon all over? Sorry, I got sidetracked as usual. My
you're
bad.
You're good, man. Even though there's a lot, you can never go wrong with the original.
Yeah. So I'm really torn because obviously I've got Suicune on my arm. It's my favorite Pokemon. If I was to go down like the list of like second, third, fourth, whatever, the majority of them are first gen. Like my very first favorite Pokemon, when before the other ones were a thing, was Jolteon, and then similar to you, Charmeleon. For some reason, first gen in particular, I loved the second. I love Wartortle, Charmeleon, and Ivysaur. For whatever reason, they just stuck out to me. I liked them more than the full evolution, but Charmeleon's like my dude, and then like Zapdos, and it just goes on and on. But then at the same time, just for the sake,
Be my bird.
oh yes, like all the legendary birds and the legendary dogs were fucking dope. But like for all the Pokemon that I do love in Gen 1, I really love Gen 2 because I'm like, I loved the anime, especially as a kid, because that's when they brought in all like the new Pokeballs as well.
Speaking of that too, I don't know if you have an interest in it, but if you play Poke MMO, that's Gen 1 for you, if you want to play that.
What's that,
Complete Poke MMO. It's a Pokemon game like, Gen 1 to like Gen 3 or something like that. And as you see with the photo I sent you, it's a multiplayer online
Oh,
game.
yeah, that's right. I remember now. I've got terrible memory because of my ADHD, but yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, so
I
if you download that,
saw that someone... There's like, I've never like been real like big into Minecraft, but someone's doing like Minecraft Pokemon, and they're building like every single map into one, and they've just spent a year just building Kanto, and I'm like, by the time they get through building all the other islands, there's gonna be like 2 or 3 more Pokemon games out. But I guess if it makes them happy and it keeps them, keeps them interested in doing stuff, then why not? But yeah, that's a hard one for me. Like I'd say Gen 2, but I can see why you'd say Gen 1 because like it's the OG. But like I was always just drawn to the different like Pokeballs when they introduced like all the different kinds, and the starters for that gen were really cool as well. But if you were a Pokemon trainer in real life, because we're just fucking nerds, if technically I have 3 parts of the question, really, if you can answer it. The second part was, if you had a type, like a specialized type, what would it be?
Fire.
The second I feel like that's easy because you got to have Charizard in there. The second of that, though, or I guess third of that, I can count, math. You got a 33 and a third chance. No. The third chance. If, off the top of your head, you were to assemble a full team of 6 Pokemon, what would it be? Your gym leader, Steve, Indigo, Plateau, whatever, world champion. Obviously, I'm assuming Charizard's going to be in there. Dude, if you're a legendary fucking world champion Pokemon trainer, you can...
No, like legendaries like Articuno or that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. If you're a legendary world champion Pokemon trainer, you can have whatever fucking Pokemon you want. So we'll say Charizard and Articuno, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Another one I've always been a fan of would be Onyx.
Yes.
That's 3.
I still get PTSD watching the OG Pokemon, and Onyx is just fucking beating the shit out of Ash's Pikachu.
Number 4 would probably have to go Nidoking.
Yes, nice.
Number 5, Machamp.
So just get like a full team of OGs almost.
Number 6 would have to be Poliwrath.
Fuck yes.
Now I'm going to spin it on you. Your turn.
Ooh. See, I did one of these things on Facebook where it was like, you get given a type, and I was given ground type, and I had Nidoking and stuff, but I mean, obviously Suicune's going to be in there. I'd say Jolteon. I'll say Charmeleon, because as much as I love Charizard, there's just something cool about Charmeleon.
It's especially going to evolve, so,
No, I'm going to make sure he doesn't evolve. I mean, unless he wants to, like in the world of Pokemon, if he wants to change them. But it'd be like Ash's Pikachu, where he doesn't want to evolve. But yeah, I'd probably go Suicune, Jolteon, Zapdos, Charmeleon.
two left.
As basic as it is, I've always really loved Pidgeot. I mean, you can't go past a good flying Pokemon. And then for a 6th one, because it's like, it's hard because like I could literally go through my list of favorite Pokemon and like those aren't in there. Pidgeot's not even like in my favorites, but from a strategic standpoint, you know. So what did I say? I get obviously Suicune, Jolteon, Zapdos, Charmeleon, Pidgeot.
And the last one.
You know what?
It's always hard.
Just for shits and gigs, because it is actually one of my favorite Pokemon.
Ditto.
Flip a coin between Primeape and Munchlax. Obviously, from a strategic standpoint, Primeape would be better. But at the same time, Munchlax is just cute as fuck and I love him.
Speaking of Primeape, apparently in this new version, he's got an evolution or some shit.
Bro, yes. So many first gen, like Fearow, I believe, like should have had a 3rd one as it went along. Because I always loved Fearow and Spearow. Everyone was like, you know, as a kid, you kind of hated him. He was kind of almost like a heel because, you know, the flock of Spearows attacked, you know, Pikachu or whatever in one of the first episodes. But I always really loved Fearow for some reason. It was always my go-to bird Pokemon on the games.
That's a good choice, though. he doesn't really, she, what do you want to call it? It doesn't really get many chances as like a main character, whether it's in the anime or game.
And it's always like the real dickish Pokemon, like trainers in both the games and the show that always had them. It's always like the criminals and stuff. And it's like, no, how dare you stereotype this fucking Pokemon? It is a bird. It is not a criminal. It may be, you know, effective in certain criminal activities, but that's not its fault. It's its owner's fault. It's just doing what it's told.
How dare you make it?
We're just going on like a rant now because that's the end of my question. But how do you feel that after 25 years in the anime, Ash has finally won the world championship?
So technically, Ash is 35 years old. Because he was always like a 10-year-old boy in the anime.
Yeah, well, I think he's actually, I haven't seen like a lot of the newer ones, but someone said that in one of the most recent series from like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it is, I think it was about 5 years ago, he had a birthday. So in like canon, or I guess if you want to use wrestling terms, in kayfabe, he's 11 now. So all of this shit that he's done for the last 25 years, he's had one birthday. But I shared a meme, I don't know if you saw it on Instagram, where it was like, this is what the jobs are talking about when they want someone that's 10 years old with 25 years experience.
You're not wrong.
But like, I was so mad when I saw it, mainly because I'm like, why would you just spoil the fucking ending to the season? But then at the same time, I'm like, I'm looking at all the posts that they're making, and did you see the celebrations in Japan?
No, I didn't see
They lit up the entire city on the big screens where they've usually got like the billboards for like McDonald's, KFC, whatever fucking their thing they're advertising. They lit up all of those with the picture of Ash winning the world championship in the TV show. And I'm like that right there, like defines an entire generation. Like I've literally grown up with this, and to see like, you know, him finally win it, like 8-year-old John, 10-year-old John, whatever, it's just, I lost my fucking mind. Like I was happy, so happy that it happened, but I was like so mad that they spoiled it. But then seeing all the celebrations and that, I was like, that's cool. And I'm only on season 2 now. I've just started season 2. So I'll buy
a fair few seasons on Netflix too. All right.
Yeah, well, this is the Pokemon Journey. So it's Pokemon Journeys, and then they've uploaded them separately. They're technically separate series, but it's technically 1, 2, and 3. But I guess whatever. But I'm watching Master Journeys now, which is season 2. So I'm figuring by the time I finally get through the 50 odd episodes or whatever, hopefully they'll have Ultimate Journeys up, and then I'm just gonna binge watch the fuck out of that because I know what's coming.
Yeah, I've already watched all the series. I'm just waiting for the next one to come on. Like, there's only so many times you can watch the movie. Just like,
Yeah, I've watched the first season, like the OG Gen 1, I don't know how many times over and over and over again, but we kind of went on a rant there about Pokemon. My bad, but that was just
And we
kind
both know the ultimate villain in season 1 is Jigglypuff.
the amount of time. You go to like a party or whatever. There's always the thing where if someone falls asleep, and you see it in the movies as well, like someone will draw on their face or whatever. I blame Jigglypuff for that. Maybe not entirely, because it did happen like, back in the 70s, 80s before that. But the amount of times that I drew on my brother's face or my sister's face while they were sleeping directly linked to that fucking Jigglypuff.
Oh, God.
Maybe if Pokemon had a "don't try this at home" message like wrestling did.
Oh, God.
Fucking hell, I'm just ranting. My apologies.
Oh, you're good, man.
But did you have anything that you needed to plug or anything before we go into your socials and your Twitch and yada yada yada? Like how can we reach you for referee bookings?
That's mostly through my Instagram, WrestleRefSteve, and my email and all that's linked to it.
Oh, excellent. I've done the same thing with the
notification.
I've done the same thing with the podcast Instagram. I've just gone, here's the Instagram. It's strictly for business only.
Yeah, and as you know, my other Instagram's just where I just fuck around on it.
Did you want me to link your personal one below as well, or just the referee one?
Nah, just referee one would be good.
Cool. So WrestleRefSteve on Instagram, WrestleRefSteve on Facebook. I will post the actual links in the description. Did you want to plug your Twitch channel?
That's all good, man. I've been barely streaming.
I got so into it like when I first set mine up, and now I haven't streamed in like I think a month and a half. I will get there eventually. I will get there eventually. Maybe I'll stream Injustice one of these days now that Mrs. Crossfire has a new job and 4 out of 5 days I'm home alone.
Yeah, like once you just start growing and it just burns the shit out of you, just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I did with the pod. Like, I went 70 straight weeks, and I was so sad that I missed that first week. The second week I had a sinus infection, and then it just kind of grew, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sort this out. I'm just going to hit reset. Like, this is almost, in a way, like, episode... wait, what episode are we at? This would be, if I was to do it in season, this would be like season 2, episode 3, but it's kind of what I've done. I needed that. And I kind of got that way with Twitch already, and I was only doing it for a little bit because it just took all this stuff to set it up, and I'm fucking terrible with technology as it is. So I was just like, nah, I'm done.
On there, at the moment, I'm up to like 303 followers. Like, I've got affiliate and all that shit available, but I just don't bother with it. Because I don't do it for the money, honestly. I'm just doing it to fuck around.
Well, that's basically what I've done here on the pod. Like, I want to get my name out there, and because I want to try and look into studying like proper journalism and stuff, just so that I can go put that along with the commentary and yada yada yada. And if I could get an actual job outside of this, that would be great. But I'm like, I just want to talk to my mates and talk to people I haven't like met before, and just fucking rant about wrestling and Pokemon and fantasy book shit. Like, doesn't matter. Like, as I said, like we haven't seen each other in person, I think, since the day we met. I think,
yeah,
like
exactly.
3 years ago, and yet ever since then we talk almost daily at this point on
Pretty much.
Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But it's been really good getting to catch up with you, man, and having that having that quick little chat before we started recording. But hopefully, 2023 can be a good year for both of us. I don't doubt for a second that Kingdom will bring you back after the February show. I know for a fact that if you ever head down Canberra way, we always need extra refs. There will definitely be a spot for you. I don't even need to be in charge of booking or anything to tell you that. Like, the more referees, the better. As I said, it's the most important job. A lot of our referees now have started wrestling, so they're kind of pulling double duty. So if you can get proper official referees to come in and lay down the law.
I've got the gear over there. Actually, seen me the shirt.
But yeah, like if you ever come down our way, let me know. As I said, like we've only got 6 or 7 shows next year we've already got dates. So if you're free any of them dates, let me know, and if I'm going to a show, I'll let you know, and maybe you can make it. But if not, I'm sure I'll see you at some sort of wrestling event or whatever at some point, hopefully, before 2023 ends at least.
Well, here's a plug. Saturday, January 28th, 2023, Warsend Pioneers Memorial Hall. Kingdom Wrestling Entertainment presents The Purge. That's the next event I'll be at repping.
I'll link that below as well, actually, while I remember it, because I actually have an event coming up in Melbourne that same night, which I'm hoping to be at for commentary, but again, life, whatever. But if you're up the Newcastle way or willing to travel, 100% go watch The Purge, because who doesn't love a good Rumble? And I love the name for it as well. Like, it's such an obvious thing as well, and it fits great with modern day pop culture.
I'm definitely excited to come back to Newcastle every time. Just being there once this year, it's just like, the vibe and energy you get from the city is like, I want to move here, but I don't have the money. It's like, fuck.
I've always been, me, I'm kind of a country dude. I like peace and quiet. But then I went to Melbourne for that DMDU show. Antiques, I really want to move here. And I'm looking around at all the hustle and bustle, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, this is busy. But then once you get back to the hotel room, it's take that breath. I'm like, if I actually lived there and I could kind of live just on the outside, but close enough to get to the city, 100%. I was like, let's fucking go, because I hate to think how much money I spent on food and alcohol while we were there, but I get what you mean. It's just
I say that too. Everything was in walking distance. Your Coles, your Woolworths.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking at, because at the moment obviously I'm not going to reveal my full on location on the pod, but where I am at the moment, it's a 15 to 20 minute drive out of town. So we've got a plan once a week, go do our groceries. Lately, we've just been getting them delivered. So I'm like, fuck it. It's $5 delivery fee, whatever. Bring your truck to me. I'm fucking done. I'm sick of going in and out.
At the Crossfire compound.
Yes, at the compound. Kayfabe. Got to get the guards to let him through now. I love throwing that out there on shows like the Crossfire compound and just building on it as I go. I did a thing, Russell the Love Muscle and Devious Dave, they're twin brothers. They were fighting each other, and I made a comment about sometimes you just got to punch your brother in the face. And it was funny, one of my brothers in the crowd actually yelled out, "Fuck you," and I just had to act like I didn't hear it. But then I went on this rant about how, in kayfabe, my brothers live here and the compound has separate wings and they're in one wing and I'm in the other. And I just started ranting on commentary and they're like, "The fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, kayfabe!
Whatever goes in your mind, you just say it.
Just the lore of the Crossfire compound is just growing. It's located on a private island within parts unknown.
If you try and jump the fence, you get electrocuted.
Very, very hard to get groceries here in parts unknown, but it was good to have you on, mate. I do apologise to you again, by the way, for having to push this back that extra hour. I woke up, as I said before we started the actual interview, I've been playing Injustice 2, and fucking I woke up and I was like, fuck, I started to doze back up, and I was like, shit, nope, I need to get up, and then I laid on my phone playing WWE Supercard for half an hour, and was like, shit, I need to shower.
That's a fucking addictive game.
And by the time I started having my lunch, I was like, shit, it's going to take me it only takes me about 10 minutes to set my stuff up, but then I'm like, I had to do sound check and everything. So I'm like, I'll just push it back. I'm like, I could have done half an hour, but I'm like, I'll just go an hour just to be safe. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm looking forward to piecing this all together and putting it out on Sunday. I'll send you the clip art and yada, 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 and you can promote it once it's dropped. But yeah, I'll link all your stuff below. But one last time, guys, this is WrestleRef Steve. Hit him up at WrestleRef Steve on Instagram. Please check the description for the links. Send him an email, Instagram DM. Book him for your promotion. He's a damn good ref. He's good at his job. He's a good dude. He's a quiet dude, but that's all right. Well, aren't we?
Not quite in the ring, though.
But
I'll
yeah,
lose my voice in the ring.
thanks for coming on, brother.
Anytime, man.
I'll wrap this up, and hopefully we can have you on again, and we just forget all that. You just pick a topic, and let's just fantasy book fucking everything.
Well, as you know, I'm free all the way up till January, so.
Because next week, actually, I've got volume 3 or episode 3 of the Markapalooza series coming out. I'm doing that solo for the first time. The first one I had Mrs. Crossfire. The second one I had Mrs. Crossfire and Atticus Lane. This one's going to be solo, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. But hopefully for future Markapalooza episodes, I can hit you up and be like, hey, let's fantasy book this shit.
Speaking of future guests too, you need to get Zuzu on your podcast.
Yes, I do. As I said, shout out to Zuzu. I'm really fucking sorry. I was meant to have him on at the start of November. I was buggered from traveling. Fell asleep on the couch. Here's what it is. I'm so sorry, but yeah, shout out to Zuzu.
Well, since you're both in the Parts Unknown area, it's probably easy to get him on.
Yeah, the Satanic Circus kind of frequents the Parts Unknown area quite often.
You know, like, list goes on. You can get on like Zuzu, Gora, and Grant, Django, any of the boys from Kingdom, Curtis James, Chad War, anyone you want to get on your podcast, you just pick up their brain.
Yeah, well, I'm hopefully next year will be the year, because I want to take the wife away for a weekend as well and go down to Port Macquarie, and I've got a couple of mics now that I can take with me. Depending on how I travel, I might even be able to take my full-blown setup, and I'll have 3 mics and we can all have one. But that's what I want to do in person. I want to have both of them guys on. The Chad Woe and Curtis James, I'd love to have them on. And just shoot the shit in person, because I have no doubt that between the three of us, I'd have a 2-hour episode. But because it'd be in person, it's it is what it is. But there's a few guys up that way, Port Macquarie way, Newcastle way. The list on my phone just keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
It's a big list, yeah. The amount of people you can have on, you'll be able to pick up their brain. It's just like.
I feel bad because so many people are like, oh, can I come on, bro? And I'm like, yeah, like you're on my list. And they're like, when's it gonna happen? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel so fucking sorry. And I feel like they feel like I'm lying to them or something. But I'm like, no, the list just keeps growing, and it's great because the last year, the weird thing is I've sat on my ass now since November 2020. I still went to work, or I stopped working in January of 2021 and had 3 months off, but then I went back and I still worked all the way up until I had the surgery. But somehow the last 6 months to a year where I've just been sitting at home working here and there, not actually being involved in wrestling, I've somehow managed to make more connections than I did when I was actually traveling for wrestling. I don't know how that happened. I guess power of social media or whatever. I guess that's one positive of all the fuckery that goes on within it. But
ain't that the truth? There's a lot of fuckery in social media.
But as I said, guys, WrestleRef Steve, hit him up on Instagram, send him an email, book him. He does a good job. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right, how fun was that? Just to make you guys think, just to test you guys as well, to make sure you did listen to this episode all the way through. Hit me up on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, doesn't matter. Let me know. Who's your all-time favorite Pokemon? What is your all-time favorite Pokemon generation? What 6 Pokemon would you have if you had free reign and if you had to pick? What is one type that you would specialize in as a Pokemon trainer? As I mentioned in the intro, as we mentioned in this conversation, make sure you check out Steve's links in the description below. Hit him up, book him. He's a damn good referee. But also, click the links in the description because I have a link tree that has all the aforementioned socials. My Pro Wrestling Tees store, which is also prowrestlingtees.com/crossfire. There is currently a Pro Wrestling Tees sale on. Goes for a full week, 20% off all of my merch. Get yourself some swag. I've got some pretty sick designs. Not to brag, it's not ego, just fact. That's what one of the shirts says. Maybe you should buy that one. I also have my Amazon wish list if you are so inclined. And as Ref Steve mentioned in this conversation, Kingdom Pro Wrestling will kick off their 2023 on January 28th. The link for that show will be in the description as well if you are in New South Wales. Also on the 28th of January, as I mentioned in this conversation with Steve, MXW are having their first official professional show. I know that when I had Lockie James on here, the King Dreamer, Lockie James, we were talking about the Horsham show and what a big thing was for that. They now have it, their first official professional proper show, the Slam in Sham, with their awesome little Space Jam parody on the cover there, or the poster I should say. Huge main event there, Charlie Rose versus the returning Smash Mouth Richie Taylor. That was me smacking my elbow. For those that were wondering what that sound was, it was more of a visual thing than an audio thing, but you get the point. That will be linked below as well. ICW Australia will kick off their year on February 4th in the ACT with All Fired Up. Got a huge match already. One of my young proteges in Zach Stryker will be challenging the current Canberra champion, Bodie Terrence Kennedy. I unfortunately will not be able to be at that event due to family commitments. However, I am very excited for when that happens and I can go back and watch footage because those two young kids are going to have a banger. I guarantee it's going to be mwah! Chef's kiss, as I like to say. It's been a while since I've thrown that out on a pod. But yeah, all the links for all three of those shows will be in the description as well. The song of the week this week was Anyone But Me by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week this week was The Rock, If You Smell. If you're wondering why I'm buzzing so much, I sculled a vanilla latte before my conversation with Steve, and it's kind of just hit me now as I've recorded the intro and the outro. Whatever it is, what it is, I'm going to leave it in. If you smell, it's The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? At WrestleMania 19, my personal favorite match of theirs in their WrestleMania trilogy. But, with all that being said, we're getting close to 2 hours, so I need to get the fizzuck out of here. So I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and you lovely, beautiful, wonderful human being, you were just caught in conversation. Bye.